Today I'm going to show you everything that you need to hit and master those long irons in your golf bag. We're going to cover something which is very often overlooked, but it's so important. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you an alternative to those long irons, which may well suit many of you out there. So for many golfers, these are just the most difficult clubs in the bag to hit. They're starting to get, a fair bit of length in the club shaft. We're starting to get low loft. We often have to hit them from great distance, and they just give golfers so many issues. So we have to start with the setup, and understanding how we set ourselves up is massively important. I've got myself a 4-iron here. I don't carry a 3-iron. I do carry a 2-iron, but generally tend to hit that off the tee. So I'm going to use my 4-iron. For many of you, you might class a 6 or a 5 as a long iron. These things that we say would apply to all of those clubs. So setup, first of all, we're going to talk about weight distribution and ball position. When I take my setup and address to this 4-iron, I still want to address slightly more weight or pressure into my lead leg. Slight, I'm talking 55% if I could measure it. I do that with my knees and my hips and fractionally bumping them towards the target. So I just feel a little bit more weight, a little bit more pressure here. When the ball is on the ground, as it is here with my 4-iron, we have to hit the ground target side of the ball. That's over here somewhere. So the weight slightly forward just helps us do that as we come to move later on into the golf swing. Now in terms of ball position, the ball needs to be forward of centre. And that is forward of centre of my heels. So that would be the centre of my heels, and that ball is around about here. May look slightly different depending on where that camera is positioned. And it's also forward of the centre of me. So you can see that my zip or my buttons on my top would fall just behind that golf ball. As we start to move up through the longer clubs, from a 7-iron, let's say, to a 4-iron, the ball has to get nudged slightly further forward in the stance. What that means is we still, with these long irons, we still need a slightly downward hit. But as you can imagine, the more we move the ball forward, that downward hit becomes slightly less. So if I could throw numbers at you, we're maybe looking at 1, 2, 3 degrees downward with a 4-iron, maybe 4 to 5 degrees downward with a 7-iron. Both clubs are still working downwards, just slightly less with that 4-iron. I'm not going to change stance width, and I'm certainly not going to change anything in terms of my posture from this angle. I'm not changing balance or anything like that. So that would be the starting position that I require for my 4-iron. Ball slightly forward, weight slightly forward. Now the key to hitting these clubs well, this is absolutely vital, is that we have the same ideas and movements that we would with any other club. We still want to shift to our lead side early. We still want to focus on landing the club target side of the golf ball, taking a small divot depending on the conditions. Those things will allow you to hit the center of the club. The center of the club is where the loft is. Even though there's not huge amounts of loft, the center of the club is where the loft is. That's the bit of the club that we need to get on the golf ball. If you can do that, the ball will go into the air. Now there's one really key element that very often gets missed, but let's go ahead and hit a 4-iron from this setup position. So that would be a pretty perfect example. I've linked it a fraction right, but the strike was good, the distance was good, and there is a divot which started after the golf ball. The key thing was I committed to it. I didn't sort of see that low loft and lean back and try to help it into the air. I committed to it. I hit the ground target side of the ball. Now, what is that one key thing which so many golfers miss? Well, let's go through that now. This is vitally, vitally important for you to know and understand. I'm going to use the blast sensor here. Just going to put it onto my golf club. Just quickly pop that onto the end of the grip. That's going to throw up some data about the swing or the swings that I'm about to hit. Let's just open up the app. Okay, pop that in my pocket. So let's go ahead and hit another 4-iron. Again, fraction right to target, but a good swing. Ball flight there, perfect. Nice and high, I could land it on the green, pretty functional, looked good to me. Club head speed there, 98 miles an hour. Let me hit another one. This time, I'm going to reduce the speed by a fair bit. I'm going to take that 98 and I'm going to reduce it, with any luck, down somewhere around about 80. Okay, swing speed 78 and an incredibly different ball flight, super, super low. That on the golf course isn't particularly functional. Why is that the case? Well, the height of a shot comes from two main places, really. We have a takeoff angle. The angle which that ball takes off at, we know that with a long iron it's going to be relatively low, especially with a 4-iron. But we also have the speed that the golf ball is traveling at. If that golf ball has got high speed, it will go up and keep going up and actually reach a pretty high peak height. With low speed, the ball goes up on possibly the same angle, but it drops out the sky much sooner. It therefore gives us an overall lower ball flight. And for many of you whose swing speeds are, let's say, lower than 85, that's going to result in a pretty low flight with a long iron. What happens then, if I just take that sensor off, is that if we start to, say, take a 4-iron and see that low ball flight, the instinctive reaction then is to recognize that's a low ball flight and then try to make some changes to increase it. And so what do? We shift the ball too far forward. We start to put more weight on the back foot. We start to lean back. We start to add loft and impact. All of these things to me feel like they would help the ball go higher. And they would if you could strike it. The problem is all of those things make it incredibly difficult to strike it. And then that golfer comes to see me for some help and says, really struggling with my long irons, I just can't strike them consistently. I've got no consistency in the strike, and when I do hit them well, the distance isn't there. And it's because they've got low speed, low height, and they try and fix it with faults. It's never going to work. So the reality here is, if you want to hit your long irons well, you need speed. And for many of you, unfortunately, you don't have enough speed to get the most out of those clubs. But there's an answer. If you do have low speed, hybrids. Hybrids are brilliant. They are the answer to those golfers who struggle with the long irons. This is a 4 hybrid. It's 22 degrees, which is pretty much the same loft as my 4-iron. But it's a very, very different design. You can see how the head is differently shaped. All the weight on this club is right at the bottom. So even though it says 22 degrees, and that is 22 degrees, this will take off much higher. It will put more spin on the golf ball. Those things give me more height. It's kind of a pretty simple formula. If you've got lower speed, you need more launch angle to balance that out. This is what the hybrid gives you. So with a hybrid, I'm able to take that same setup that we spoke about before, ball just forward, weight just forward, focusing on still trying to take a small divot. But even if you've got low speed, the height on that is so much better. Now, I can't tell you how much more pleasing that is to the golfer to see the ball going that high. You can land it on greens, you can stop it on par 5s, and because I'm getting that really nice height, I'm not then encouraged to lean back, scoop, put the weight here, which is what's leading to those poorer strikes. So there's 3 real key things in this video. Number 1, the setup and the intention that you need to hit a long iron. Second thing is the speed. You have to have a certain amount of speed to get the most out of those long irons. And the third thing is, if you don't have that speed and you don't have that consistency, get yourself a hybrid. I cannot stress enough how important these are for so many golfers out there. It can really kind of raise your game to the next level, and you can take out those long irons, put in the hybrids. So much easier to play the game and often a lot more fun. Right, hope some information there which can help you, and hopefully I'll see you back here again for a future video.